Here we are. We're going to look at the CRV, right? So this is our 1998 Honda CRV. A bug was installed by students. I went back and modified that bug. So if you put the bug in this car before and you remember what it is, it might be different, right? We're going to go through the process together, kind of look at if this car came into the shop, what would we do? What would we go through, right? So let's start with verifying the concern. So our complaint is that it's got a rough idle, right? Starts and runs, but rough idle. So
all right, we're in the CRV, and I'll go ahead and crank it. See what we get. So it starts right up. You can see, maybe you can hear it. Quite rough, shaking the whole car. We've got a check engine light, and that check engine light is flashing, right? So hopefully that gives us some information that we can use. And so we're going to take what we know from that, and we'll go over to our scan tool. All right, so we've got our SnapOn Scan tool today. Was going to pick the launch, but the battery on it was dead. So we'll make do with the SnapOn. So we're gonna go down, pick our year, 1998. We are a CRV. We've got a 2-liter. The VIN code states a 1. So I'm going to pick 1 for that option. Gonna go to engine, look for codes. We'll start there. Start with our stored codes. So it looks like I've got 2, right? So I've got a Misfire cylinder number 3 and Misfire cylinder number 4.
So pause that real quick. Something that I forgot when I went through this was that these 2 codes appear largely because I didn't clear them, and a lot of our diagnosis before we did go on break, a lot of us were doing power balance tests. We were unplugging things, leaving things unplugged. And so come to find out, I went back through it. Cylinder 4's code did not return. So keep in mind that the dead miss really is just on cylinder 3, and that P0303 is really the only code that we need to think about in this case. All right, let's get back to it.
So I'm going to go back, see if there's anything pending. I've got this Misfire in any cylinder code, and then these 2. I know that this 1399 correlates with the others that I've got. These 2 I'm not going to worry about at this time. So let's go back and let's see what we can learn in terms of data. So I'm going to go to data. So here I've got a pretty good list. You can see my idle is not doing too bad. What I'm going to do here is I want to go and look at what's my O2 sensor doing, and hopefully what are my fuel trims doing, with the hope that both of those can give me some insight into what's happening. If I've got a fuel misfire versus a ignition misfire, those values could help me understand perhaps what's happening. We'll have to see what we get from the SnapOn tool here in terms of those values. So right here I've got ST fuel trim, and it's expressed as this 0.96 number. And so that's an interesting thing in Honda world, that they utilize 1.0 as an unmodified source, right? So basically as a multiplier, if my fuel table has got 1.0, that means that no modification has been made. And so on here we see that it's 0.97, 0.96, it's bouncing around a little bit. As it goes down, it's taking fuel away, and if we were going above 1.0, we would be adding fuel, okay? One of the things that I can do typically if I don't like how that appears is that I could back out, go to my OBD2 protocol, load this up, and what this typically does is gets me to a spot where I see more consistent data in terms of how it's presented. So that Honda format, having the ST fuel trim with a 1.0 scale, if I didn't know what that was, I might have a hard time reading it. Going to just the OBD2 protocol could help me will translate that for me to something more typical in terms of a percentage. Picked up the vehicle. I'm going to go down. You can see I've got all my modes. I want to display current data, right? Mode 1. We'll give it a moment to connect. All right, so now I can see some more standardized formatting, right? So it does tell me my fuel system is in closed loop, right? So we are using these numbers actively at the moment. If I get this back up, there we go. So short-term fuel trim is now in a percentage view, so now I can see it's taking away 5%. And so that was close to what I saw, right? I saw 0.95, 0.96, and so that represented about a 5% reduction or subtraction within that fuel trim. So now it's just presented in a number that maybe is more friendly or something that I'm more used to, right? So not a whole lot to look at here. I know that I've got a Misfire, but not a lot of fuel trim change happening. And so often what that is going to tell me is that fuel is still present in the combustion chamber on the cylinder that's missing. And so that gives me a little bit of information to go forward with. So at this point, we're going to get away from the scan tool and we'll go talk about some other tests that we could do.
All right, so we saw some of the scan tool data. We saw that we had 2 misfire codes for 2 separate cylinders. And we saw that the fuel trims, O2 sensor data, not a lot of change. So there's some information to be learned about that. And I'm going to leave you with those things right now. And so what I want you to do now is to go in Cobra, go on the discussion post for the CRV, and I want you to put what test do you think needs to be done next? Where should we go to try to isolate these things? So just like we talked in class, we've got really 3 main areas to focus on. We're interested in fuel, air, and spark all being present. We know we've got a misfire. Seems like a pretty dead misfire, meaning that it's really isolated within one cylinder. Again, you've got some information from the scan tool now. And so move on into the discussion. Put what test you think we should do next. And we'll name 2 tests each, and then we'll come back, we'll do those tests, and we'll kind of work through and see where we get. Look forward to hearing from you.